The explosions lit up the purple sky of Kepler 186 like angry fireworks. Staff Sergeant Du-hyun ran through the chaos, his medical kit bouncing against his back. All around him, soldiers from the Earth Defense Force were falling back. The enemy's plasma shells turned the crystalline ground into deadly shards. "Medic! We need a medic here!" The cry came from his left. Du-hyun changed direction without thinking, sliding behind a large crystal formation for cover. A young private lay there, clutching his leg. It took Du-hyun less than 2 minutes to seal the wound and get the soldier back on his feet. "Fall back to Point Delta." The order crackled through his helmet comm. Du-hyun helped the private up, watching him join the stream of retreating soldiers. But something caught his eye. A flash of light that seemed different from the explosions. Through the smoke, he saw them, the Araxian warriors. Their crystalline armor sparkled even in the chaos of battle. They moved like dancers, their movements fluid and precise. Du-hyun had heard stories about these alien allies, but this was his first time seeing them in combat. One Araxian in particular stood out. Their armor had patterns that reminded Du-hyun of frost on a winter morning. The warrior moved faster than the others, cutting through enemy lines with an energy blade that hummed through the air. This was clearly a veteran fighter. "All units, full retreat. Enemy forces have broken through Sector 7. The command voice was urgent now. Du-hyun turned to move, but kept watching the frost-patterned warrior. Something wasn't right with their movements. The next few moments seemed to slow down. An enemy shell hit near the Araxian formation. The frost-patterned warrior tried to dodge, but Du-hyun saw the stumble. The blast caught them mid-movement. The warrior's crystalline armor scattered the energy, but they fell hard. Du-hyun's medical scanner beeped. It had picked up serious life sign fluctuations from the fallen warrior. He looked toward the retreat point, then back at the fallen Araxian. The enemy was advancing quickly. A group of coalition medics ran past him. One glanced at the fallen Araxian and shook his head. "Can't help that one. Their biology is too different. We'd do more harm than good." The frost-patterned warrior tried to move but couldn't. Their armor made a sound like wind chimes as they struggled. The enemy fire was getting closer. Other soldiers and medics hurried past, none stopping to help. The Araxians were valuable allies, but their crystalline biology was a mystery to most human medics. Du-hyun looked at his medical scanner again. The patterns were strange, but they reminded him of something from his xenobiology training. He thought about Nirei, his old instructor, and her words. "Medicine isn't about what's easy. It's about who needs help." His helmet comm crackled again. "Last warning. All personnel evacuate immediately. Enemy forces approaching your position." Du-hyun made his choice. He switched off his comm and ran toward the fallen warrior. The ground around them was starting to glow from the heat of nearby impacts. He could see the damage now, fractures running through the warrior's crystalline exoskeleton. Their internal matrix was destabilizing. As he reached the warrior, their face-plated helmet turned toward him. Du-hyun saw his own reflection in its smooth surface. He activated his medical scanner's universal translator and spoke clearly. "I'm Staff Sergeant Du-hyun, Earth Defense Force combat medic. I'm here to help. Can you understand me?" The warrior's response came in a voice that sounded like crystals chiming. "I am Terry. Why? Why did you stay?" Another explosion rocked the ground nearby. Du-hyun started unpacking his medical kit. "Because you need help. Now, let's see what we can do about these fractures." Enemy fire continued to light up the purple sky, but Du-hyun focused on his work. Sometimes, he knew, the bravest thing wasn't charging into battle. It was simply refusing to walk away. Du-hyun worked quickly, his hand steady despite the explosions around them. His scanner showed Terry's crystalline nervous system was badly damaged, with fractures spreading through their core matrix. It was like looking at broken glass that somehow still held life within it. "Your neural pathways are disrupted," Du-hyun explained. pointing to his scanner's display. That's why you can't move. But the core matrix is intact. We can fix this. Terry's voice chimed weakly. Others said, impossible. Human medicine and Araxian biology, too different. A plasma bolt struck nearby, showering them with glowing crystal shards. Du Hyun shifted his position to shield Terry from the debris. The enemy was getting closer. He could hear their heavy war machines crushing the crystal formations as they advanced. They're wrong, Du Hyun said firmly. He pulled out his medical kit and began sorting through his supplies. I had a teacher, Mireille. She taught us about crystalline life forms. She always said the principles of healing are universal. We just need to understand the patterns. His mind went back to those training days. Mireille had brought in a damaged crystal from an Araxian medical museum. She had shown them how energy flowed through its matrix, how the patterns could be repaired with the right techniques. Most students had complained that it was useless knowledge. They would never treat an Araxian. Your armor, Du Hyun said, examining the frost-like patterns. It's not just decorative, is it? These lines follow your neural pathways. Terry's helmet shifted slightly in what might have been surprise. Yes, you understand our ways. Do Hyun pulled out a series of small energy projectors from his kit. Not everything, but enough to help. These are meant for human nerve repair, but if I adjust the frequency, he carefully placed them along the patterns in Terry's armor. The ground shook as another explosion hit closer. Through the smoke, Du Hyun could see the massive shapes of enemy walkers. They had maybe 10 minutes before they were overrun. Why do you risk? Terry asked. You should go. Save yourself. Do Hyun checked the calibration on his equipment. I took an oath. First, do no harm. But there's another part people forget. I will remember that I remain a member of society, with special obligations to all my fellow human beings. He smiled behind his helmet. To me, human beings includes anyone who needs help. He activated the energy projectors. They hummed to life, creating a gentle field that resonated with Terry's crystalline structure. Besides, Du Hyun added, leaving you here would definitely count as doing harm. A warning indicator flashed in his helmet. Enemy forces were now less than a kilometer away. The projectiles and plasma bolts were getting more accurate, creating a deadly light show around them. Can you feel anything? Du Hyun asked, adjusting the projectors. Yes, warmth, like sunlight through crystal. Good. That means the neural pathways are responding. But this is just temporary. We need to get somewhere safer for proper treatment. Du Hyun looked around, spotting a nearby ridge of tall crystal formations. There might be caves there. Crystals like yours don't form only on the surface. Terry's voice was stronger now. Caves, yes, sacred places to my people. But how? Do Hyun was already pulling equipment from his pack. I'm going to build a hover stretcher. Not pretty, but it'll work. Then we find shelter, and I do my job properly. He paused in his work. That is, if you trust me to try. The crystalline warrior was silent for a moment. When they spoke, their voice carried a new tone. Something like hope. You stayed when others ran. You understand what others ignore. I trust. Do Hyun nodded and got back to work. The enemy was coming, time was short, and he had a patient to save. Everything else was just details. The makeshift hover stretcher hummed as Du Hyun guided it through the war-torn landscape. He had built it from spare medical equipment and parts from a damaged scout bike. It wasn't pretty, but it kept Terry stable and moving. Tell me if the vibrations cause any pain, Du Hyun said, checking his scanner. Your neural matrix is still very fragile. No pain, Terry responded, but strange sensations, like music through broken crystal. They moved carefully between towering crystal formations. The enemy's advance had slowed, probably confused by their forces' life sign readings in this direction. Du Hyun had reprogrammed his medical beacon to scatter its signal, making them harder to track. You need to understand my body's structure, Terry said suddenly. Their voice chimed with urgency. If you truly want to help. Do-hyun stopped in the shadow of a large crystal spire. I'm listening. We Araxians, our bodies are living crystal matrices. Neural pathways flow like light through the structures. Terry's armor shifted slightly, revealing more of the intricate patterns. When damaged, the pathways can be repaired, but you need the right resonance. Do-hyun finished. Like tuning a musical instrument. Yes. Terry's voice brightened. How did you know? Do-hyun smiled behind his helmet. May-Ray, my teacher, she showed us once, used a tuning fork on a damaged Araxian crystal. The whole thing lit up like a symphony. A distant explosion made them both fall silent. Do-hyun checked his tactical display. The enemy was sweeping the area in a grid pattern. They needed to move. Why did you become a warrior? Do-hyun asked as they started moving again. He needed to keep Terry talking, keep their neural patterns active. Family tradition. We are the Crystal Guard. For 10 generations, my line has protected our sacred sites. Terry's voice grew stronger as they spoke. Each generation adds new patterns to our armor, shows our history, They paused, searching for the word. Your legacy? Do-hyun suggested. Yes. Legacy. The patterns tell our story. Now I may be the last of my line. Do-hyun checked his scanner again. Not if I can help it. Your core matrix is already stabilizing. The patterns are trying to reconnect naturally. They reached a shallow cave entrance, hidden behind crystal growths. Do-hyun's scanner showed it went deep into the ridge. More importantly, it showed complex crystal formations inside, similar to Terry's biological patterns. This might be what we need, Do-hyun said. These cave crystals, they're like your neural pathways, aren't they? Yes, Terry's voice was filled with wonder. A sacred place. The crystals here, they sing to us, help us heal. As if in response, the cave crystals began to glow faintly. Do-hyun watched in amazement as patterns of light danced through them, echoing the frost-like designs in Terry's armor. The caves remember, Terry explained. They hold the memories of all who came before, all who healed here. Do-hyun carefully maneuvered the hover stretcher into the cave. Then let's add your story to their memory. But first, he pulled out his medical kit. We need to stabilize these fractures. The cave's energy will help, but you still need a doctor. A doctor who understands, Terry added. Their voice carried a new warmth. Perhaps the caves will remember you too, Do-hyun, the human who listened to crystal songs. Outside, the sounds of war continued. But in the cave, surrounded by living crystal, Do-hyun began his work. The real challenge was just beginning. The cave crystals pulsed with soft light as Do-hyun worked. He had set up a small medical station using his portable equipment and items salvaged from his pack. The energy projectors hummed quietly, helping to stabilize Terry's neural matrix. Someone comes, Terry said suddenly, their voice tense. The crystals around them flickered in response to their anxiety. Do-hyun checked his scanner. A single life sign was approaching the cave, and its pattern was Araxian. He moved to the cave entrance, medical scanner ready to serve as a weapon if needed. A tall figure appeared, their crystal armor gleaming with deep blue patterns. They stopped at the entrance, then spoke in the chiming language of the Araxians. That is Hanul, Terry said, my squad leader. Hanul stepped into the cave, their helmet retracting to reveal a face that seemed carved from living crystal. They looked at Do-hyun, then at Terry, speaking again in their native tongue. They ask why you help, Terry translated. Why you risk yourself for an alien. Do-hyun kept working as he answered. Because it's right. Because I can. Does there need to be another reason? Hanul watched Do-hyun's hands as he adjusted the energy projectors. Their crystalline face showed no emotion, but their armor patterns shifted, creating new designs. Hanul says they must return to our forces. Terry translated. They will try to send help, but the enemy is pushing hard. We may be on our own for days. The squad leader moved closer, examining Do-hyun's medical setup. They spoke again, their tone different. They say your methods are unusual, but they see the healing beginning. The patterns growing stronger. Hanul reached out and touched one of the cave crystals. The entire chamber lit up with complex patterns, like a light show beneath the surface of ice. They spoke once more, their voice carrying a musical note that needed no translation. A blessing, Terry explained. They asked the Ancient Ones to watch over us. The squad leader turned to leave, but paused at the cave entrance. They removed something from their armor, a small crystal that glowed with its own light. They handed it to Do-hyun. A power source, Terry said, for your equipment, and a sign of trust. Hanul's helmet reformed around their face. They gave a formal bow to Do-hyun, then disappeared into the purple twilight outside. Your leader seems worried, Do-hyun said, examining the crystal power source. The enemy is hunting. They know the value of our sacred places. Terry's voice grew stronger as the treatment continued. If they find these caves. They won't, Do-hyun said firmly. He connected the crystal to his medical equipment, watching as its energy strengthened the healing field. Right now, we focus on getting you better, one problem at a time. The cave crystals pulsed in rhythm with Terry's neural patterns. Do-hyun could see the damaged pathways beginning to realign, like broken glass slowly reforming. Tell me about your home, he said, adjusting the equipment. About your people. The more I understand, the better I can help. As Terry began to speak, their voice growing stronger with each word, Do-hyun settled in for the long work ahead. Outside, a war raged across a crystal world. But here, in this ancient cave, something new was growing. A bridge between two very different kinds of life. Deep in the crystal cave, Do-hyun made an amazing discovery. The wall crystals weren't just glowing. They were singing. It started as a soft hum, barely noticeable above his equipment's quiet buzz. But as Terry's strength grew, the song became clearer. The caves are responding to your neural patterns, Do-hyun said, watching his scanner's readings with fascination. They're amplifying the healing energy. Terry's voice was stronger now. Yes, these caves are older than our oldest stories. They remember how to heal. Do-hyun moved deeper into the cave system, following the strongest crystal formations. He pushed the hover stretcher carefully, watching how different crystal clusters reacted to Terry's presence. Some glowed brighter, others changed color, all humming in harmony. Our ancestors came here when they were wounded or sick, Terry explained. The crystals would sing to them, teach them how to rebuild their shattered patterns. They entered a large chamber where the crystals formed spiraling patterns across the walls and ceiling. As soon as Terry's damaged form entered, the entire room lit up with dancing lights. This is perfect, Do-hyun said, checking his readings. The crystal patterns here almost exactly match your neural pathways. We can use this. He positioned the hover stretcher in the center of the chamber. The crystal songs grew stronger, and Do-hyun's scanner showed Terry's neural patterns beginning to stabilize even more. I feel something new, Terry said, like remembering a forgotten song. Do-hyun adjusted his equipment to match the cave's natural frequency. Your people built their cities with living crystal, didn't they? Like this cave, but shaped by technology. Yes, we grew our cities from the planet's crystal heart. Each building, each street, sang with life. Terry's voice carried a note of sadness. Many are silent now, destroyed in the war. Suddenly, Terry's armor began to glow in sync with the cave crystals. The frost-like patterns shifted, revealing new designs underneath. What's happening? Do-hyun asked, checking his scanner. The cave. It remembers my family line. These patterns, they are from my ancestors who healed here. Terry's voice filled with wonder. I never knew. Do-hyun watched as the crystal songs grew stronger. His scanner showed Terry's neural pathways beginning to reform, guided by the ancient patterns in the cave. Your people's history isn't just in stories, Do-hyun said softly. It's in the crystal itself. Living memory. A distant explosion reminded them of the war above. But it seemed far away now, in this chamber of light and song. Do-hyun, Terry said suddenly. You should know. The enemy. They hunt our sacred places because of this power. If they find us, they'll have to get through me first, Do-hyun said, checking his weapon while monitoring the healing progress. I didn't come this far to give up now. The crystal songs continued, their harmony growing stronger. In the center of the chamber, Terry's shattered neural matrix slowly began to rebuild itself, guided by patterns older than history. Above them, war raged across a crystal. The first sign of trouble was when Do-hyun's equipment started to fail. One by one, his medical monitors flickered and went dark. Only the crystal power source from Hae-Newell kept the essential healing equipment running. Something's wrong, Do-hyun said, checking his helmet systems. All communications are dead. Terry's crystalline form pulsed with worried light. The storms, they come without warning on this world. The cave crystals began to vibrate with a new frequency. Through the cave entrance, Do-hyun saw the purple sky turn almost black. Bolts of energy, like lightning made of pure data, crackled between the crystal formations outside. Electromagnetic storm, Do-hyun realized, strong enough to knock out all electronics. He looked at his few working pieces of equipment. Good thing your people's technology works on different principles. The storm grew stronger. The air itself seemed to buzz with power. Do-hyun's armor systems shut down one by one, leaving only basic life support. The enemy cannot track us in this, Terry said. But their weapons still work. They use crystal tech like ours. Do-hyun moved closer to the cave entrance, watching energy bolts dance between crystal spires. That's why they're here, isn't it? They're not just after territory. They want your crystal technology. Yes, our sacred knowledge. The songs of creation. Terry's voice grew stronger, aided by the cave's healing energy. They take our crystals, twist them into weapons. Each blast of their guns is a perverted song. The storm's intensity increased. The cave crystals hummed louder, responding to the chaos outside. Do-hyun noticed something strange. The healing patterns around Terry were actually growing stronger. The storm, he said, checking his remaining working scanner. It's amplifying the cave's natural energy. Your neural pathways are regenerating faster. Terry's armor patterns shifted, creating new designs. Yes, I can feel it. The storm's power feeds the ancient songs. A massive energy bolt struck nearby, making the whole cave shake. Crystal dust rained from the ceiling, but instead of falling, it hung in the air, swirling in complex patterns. We need to shield your equipment, Terry said urgently. The crystal dust. Use it. Create a barrier pattern, like this. Their armor glowed, showing a specific design. Do-hyun worked quickly, using the hovering crystal dust to form protective patterns around his medical equipment. The design matched the frost patterns in Terry's armor. Your family's pattern, Do-hyun realized. It's not just decoration. It's a protection seal. Yes, passed down through generations. Meant to preserve life, not take it. Terry's voice carried pride and sadness. The enemy tried to steal this pattern many times. They never understood. Its power comes from the intent to heal, not harm. The storm raged through the night. Do-hyun watched in amazement as the crystal dust barrier deflected energy bolts that got too close. His protected equipment continued working, helping Terry's neural matrix rebuild itself. When this is over, Terry said softly, our people must learn from this. Human medicine and Araxian crystals working together. Perhaps that is why the Ancient Ones guided you here. Do-hyun smiled, watching the storm's power feed the healing process. Sometimes, he thought, The most violent storms brought the greatest opportunities for healing. The storm passed, leaving behind an eerie calm. The cave crystals still hummed with power, their song stronger than before. Du-hyun checked his restored equipment, studying the readings with growing excitement. "Terry, look at this," he said, holding up his scanner. "Your neural matrix. It's rebuilding itself in a new pattern." The crystalline warrior's armor glowed softly. "Yes, I feel it. Different from before. Stronger." Do-hyun examined the new pattern forming in Terry's neural pathways. It combined the ancient Araxian designs with something new, rhythms that matched human bioelectric patterns. "The cave crystals didn't just heal you," Do-hyun explained. "They adapted, found a way to combine both our species' healing patterns." He adjusted his equipment to match the new frequency. "Can you try to move?" Terry's arm shifted slightly, crystal armor catching the light. I can feel again. Not fully, but..." A high-pitched whine cut through the air. Do-hyun's tactical scanner, now working again, showed multiple enemy signatures approaching. "They're sweeping the area," he said, checking his weapon. "The storm must have scattered their forces. Now they're regrouping." "Do-hyun," Terry's voice was urgent. "The crystal dust barrier. It showed me something. A way to complete the healing. But we need more power." The enemy signals grew stronger. Do-hyun could hear the heavy crunch of their war machines moving through the crystal fields above. "Tell me what you need," he said, already gathering his equipment. The storm changed the cave crystals, awakened old patterns. Terry's armor glowed brighter. "If you connect your medical equipment to the main crystal cluster, and I channel my family's protection seal." A blast shook the cave entrance. Crystal shards rained down as enemy forces began their systematic search of the area. "It's risky," Terry continued. "No one has ever combined human tech with ancient crystal patterns. But we're out of options," Do-hyun finished. He quickly began connecting his equipment to the largest crystal formation. "Besides, doing the impossible seems to be working for us so far." The cave crystal's song changed as Do-hyun worked, becoming more complex. His scanner showed energy patterns he'd never seen before, human and Araxian technologies merging into something new. "Ready?" he asked, finger hovering over the activation switch. "Wait," Terry said. Their armor patterns shifted, forming the ancient protection seal. "Whatever happens, thank you for staying when others left." Do-hyun smiled behind his helmet. "Thank me when you're back on your feet." He activated the merged systems. The cave exploded with light and song. Energy coursed through the crystal networks, following patterns older than civilization itself. Terry's neural matrix lit up like a constellation. Then everything changed. The cave chamber erupted in blinding light. Every crystal surface blazed with power as human technology and ancient Araxian patterns merged. In the center, Terry's form glowed like a star. The enemy forces breached the cave entrance just as the light show reached its peak. Their crystalline weapons hummed with dark energy, a twisted echo of the cave's pure song. "Stop them," a harsh voice commanded in the enemy language. The knowledge in this cave must be ours. But they were too late. Terry rose from the hover stretcher, their movements still shaky but growing stronger. The warrior's armor blazed with patterns never seen before, a perfect blend of frost-like family seals and human medical symbols. "This knowledge is not for weapons," Terry's voice rang out, clear and strong. "It is for healing." Do-hyun moved to defend his patient, his weapon ready. The enemy soldiers hesitated, their own crystal armor resonating strangely with the cave's energy. "Your weapons are perversions of our sacred arts," Terry continued, each step becoming more stable. "You twist songs of healing into screams of pain." The enemy commander raised their weapon. "Kill them both. Take what crystals remain." The first shots fired, but something incredible happened. The cave's crystal dust barrier, still active from the storm, caught the energy blasts. Instead of deflecting them, it transformed them. Where there had been destructive force, healing light bloomed. Impossible. The enemy commander staggered back. Do-hyun understood suddenly. The protection seal, it's not just defending. It's purifying their weapon energy. More enemy soldiers poured in, filling the chamber with twisted crystal tech. But each shot they fired only made the cave's healing song stronger. Terry stood tall now, their neural matrix fully aligned with the new patterns. Then came an answering song from outside. Haenul's voice rang out, leading a choir of Araxian warriors. They had returned, drawn by the cave's incredible energy signature. The sacred place has chosen. Haenul's voice carried through the crystal walls. Stand down, or face its judgment. Enemy soldiers began to fall back, their weapons falling silent one by one. The cave's pure song overwhelmed their corrupted crystal tech, turning destruction into harmony. The enemy commander tried one last desperate shot, aimed straight at Do-hyun. But Terry moved with lightning speed, intercepting the blast. Their armor's new patterns absorbed the energy completely. Enough. Terry's voice held centuries of authority. This place is for healing. Leave or be healed yourselves of your hatred. The commander fled, their remaining forces scrambling after them. Haenul's warriors secured the cave entrance as Do-hyun checked his scanner one last time. Your neural matrix, he said with amazement. It's not just healed. It's evolved. The combination of our methods created something entirely new. Terry turned to him, their crystalline face catching the light of 1,000 singing crystals. As have we all. Perhaps this is what the Ancient Ones intended, not just healing bodies, but healing the divide between our peoples. 3 months after the battle at the Crystal Caves, Do-hyun stood in the new Joint Medical Center. The building combined human architecture with living Araxian crystal, its walls humming with gentle healing songs. The latest test results are promising, Do-hyun said, showing his data to a group of mixed human and Araxian medical students. The merged healing patterns are even more effective than we hoped. Terry stood beside him, their armor now bearing the official markings of the combined medical corps. The frost patterns of their family line now included subtle traces of human medical symbols, a permanent reminder of their shared experience. What Do-hyun discovered in that cave changed everything, Terry explained to the students, not just for medicine, but for understanding between our peoples. The medical center's crystal walls pulsed with soft light as patients moved through the halls. Human doctors worked alongside Araxian healers, their different methods combining to create better treatments for both species. Watch closely, Do-hyun said, activating a healing chamber. The crystals sang in harmony with human medical equipment, creating the same merged energy pattern that had saved Terry's life. A young Araxian warrior with battle damage lay in the chamber. Their neural matrix was severely fractured, much like Terry's had been. But now they had real hope for recovery. The enemy never understood, Terry said, adjusting the crystal frequencies. True power comes from healing, not destruction. From building bridges, not walls. Haenul entered the chamber, their armor now bearing the marks of a diplomatic liaison. They spoke in perfect English, another sign of the growing cooperation between their peoples. The Coalition Council has approved expansion of the program, Haenul announced. 10 more joint medical centers will be built. The enemy's attacks have decreased since word of our combined healing arts spread. Do-hyun checked the patient's readings. The new treatment was working perfectly, human and Araxian healing energies working in perfect sync. Sometimes the bravest thing, he said, remembering that first choice to stay behind, is to heal instead of harm, to try understanding instead of running away. Terry touched one of the chamber crystals, their family's protection seal merging with the healing frequencies. My ancestors would be proud, not just of being healed, but of what that healing created. Outside the medical center, the crystal plains of Kepler 186 stretched to the horizon. Where there had been battlefields, new growth emerged. Human cities, and Araxian crystal spires rose side by side, their differences creating something greater than either could achieve alone. Next week's class, Du Hyun told the students, "We'll study how to adapt these techniques for other species. The principles of healing are truly universal." As the students filed out, Terry turned to Du Hyun. "That day in the battle, when everyone else left, did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Do Hyun smiled, watching human and Araxian healers working together in perfect harmony. Sometimes the smallest choices have the biggest echoes. One act of healing can transform worlds. The medical center's crystals sang their eternal song of healing, now enriched with new harmonies, a symphony of two peoples who found their greatest strength in helping others.